Welcome to Weight Loss and Wellness for Real, the podcast where people like you get the practical solutions and support you need to permanently lose the physical and mental weight so you can feel better and live the life you really want to live in the body and mind you really want to be living in. If you're looking to overcome your stress eating, overeating, binging behaviors, and move to a place of food and body freedom, as well as find more meaning and more moments of joy in life, you are in the right place. Hey everyone, thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in and listening. I am really excited that you are here. Just a reminder to head to my website, heatherheinen.com, and you can sign up for my free monthly newsletter where you can get all things. I always write about something in regards to well-being. And then I always include a high protein recipe as well as links to promo codes for any of the products that are affiliates of this podcast. So you get some good deals. Also, I would just ask wherever you are listening to this from or watching this from, if you would be willing to either subscribe or follow the show. I would really, really appreciate it. If you are listening on my new YouTube channel, Heather Heinen Wellness, if you would subscribe and give it a thumbs up, I would really, really appreciate that. It really does help me be able to keep putting out one episode every week and helps the show grow. So thank you for doing that and supporting this show. So today I'm really excited because my guest today is Susan Birch, and she and I have talked a couple of times and really hit it off. I think she used the term, she called us sisters from another mother. So super, super fun to be able to talk to her today. Susan began studying exercise and nutrition in 1986, and it really became her passion. And as she improved her eating and exercise habits, her mental health improved, her weight stabilized. She also noticed she had a lot more energy. She does have a family history of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, genes for Alzheimer's disease. And so she really loved learning how to use nutrition, exercise, and lifestyle to mitigate those and other disease risks. She began sharing this knowledge, and her clients nicknamed her the health detective because she focuses on finding the root cause of her clients' health problems and working out solutions. She also has an awesome podcast called The Health Detective, and that's how I've been listening to her podcast for a really long time. It's awesome. It's just really wonderful. She's so smart, so intelligent, really wonderful information. She has a ton of education background. She has a Master of Health Sciences, postgraduate diploma in sports medicine, in musculoskeletal rehabilitation, musculoskeletal medicine, community nutrition. She's also a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. She just has all kinds of amazing knowledge. I love listening to her, and I'm so excited I get to talk to her today and that you're going to get to hear from her as well. Take a listen. Hey, everyone. I did want to let you know that unfortunately we had some recording issues right towards the end of our recording. You're going to hear my voice echoing just a little bit right at the end of the recording, but she had so much amazing information. I did not want to just trash the whole episode. So hopefully you can forgive me on this one. Still learning all about the technology behind recording these things. Thanks for being patient. So I have Susan here, and Susan, could you maybe just give us a little bit of your background and how you came to do what you're doing right now?
Hey, Heather. Lovely to see you.
You too.
I think the synchronicity in my background and your background is pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah.
We've got very similar paths. I started in the exercise field. So I started with exercise physiology and did that for many years. But then, of course, every other aspect of health has to come into it, doesn't it?
So true.
Learning more about nutrition, learning more about supplementation. And so I sort of started doing more training and study in that, completed my functional medicine practitioner training, still am studying nutritional biochemistry, and yeah, I don't think you can do one without the other, you know?
Yeah. Well, I looked up and I talked about it in the intro, just some of your educational background, and it's intense. Nice work.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Well,
a lot there.
my early days of education weren't so great, so I felt like I
No,
had a bit to make up for.
like that sounds like a story we need to have a beer over or something. So,
Yeah, absolutely. One of these days.
yeah, that's
Mm.
right. Okay, so yeah, so we have had some similar journeys, and now you've been in this space for quite a while, and
Yeah.
do your own business, coaching clients, and really focused on their wellness. Would you say you focus on weight loss, or more just health, or
I think weight loss is part of health. So I
yeah,
don't,
yeah,
I mean, obviously lots of people come because they want to lose weight, but
right.
often we don't lose weight or we gain weight because our underlying health
You
is
bet.
not that great. So, the
Yeah,
things that are going on in this chemical factory of our body
yeah,
aren't working so well. And we have so many preconceptions about weight loss, and we're still really stuck in this calories in, calories out model. And we're not
yeah,
sort of just a closed system, we're this open system. So it's about
absolutely.
what we eat, what we do, goes in, whatever it does in there, and then it comes out. So it's not a linear kind of
Yeah,
process at all.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we'll probably get into that a little bit because I did want to talk to you about that, the calories in, the calories out, and how it's so much more than that. And actually, you and I think even I think from listening to a lot of your podcasts, I stopped trying to use the word calories and use the word energy. And I
Yep.
believe you do the same thing. And
Yep.
so we'll maybe get into that a little bit.
Mm.
Before we do, or kind of this will slide into it, I suppose. But my main thing that I told you I really wanted to talk about was going to be protein. Um, it is kind of a hot topic right now within the nutritional space. I've been promoting protein the entire time I've been doing this for like 25 years. I've
Yep.
um, always believed it was so very important, even when it wasn't talked about very much. I did for a time being kind of started to question myself, like, am I off on this? Well, then
Mm.
it all came roaring back and there was a lot of validation in that. So, but could you maybe talk a little bit about just maybe in general? I'm thinking maybe explaining to the listener who maybe doesn't know just the main macronutrients, how protein is one of those things, and maybe just give us a little information on protein itself.
Yeah, sure. So we have the three macronutrients: carbohydrates, fat, and protein. And then there's also alcohol. And that's because
Oh,
we
yeah.
allocate this kind of calories to them. But I don't think protein should be classed as a macronutrient,
Interesting.
um, because we don't really use the calories from protein the same way that we use them from carbohydrates and fat. So, just like you were saying, we refer to those things as energy.
Yeah.
And it would be really nice if we can be part of the conversation of switching that vocabulary around to calling, or, that understanding in the public's mind that we're talking about energy and not calories in. And that's what's
Right.
important, because that energy does different things. So protein, we don't really use for energy. Protein is used for everything. Like
Yeah.
our body is just a protein factory. Everything, from our blood. I mean, we all know about our hair, our nails, our muscles,
Right.
but all our enzymes, all our hormones, like all the reactions that take place in our body, we've got to have the amino acids that come from the protein that we eat for those
Yeah.
to
So
work.
so so when you're saying, so yes, so our body needs it for so much, like you said, we're so used to just muscle and that sort of
Yeah,
thing, but it is so
yeah.
much more. So when you say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but not really counting protein as that energy, and when you talk about because the body uses it in a different way. So meaning, like, would we not count that as calories, or
No, no,
yeah.
no,
Yeah, tell me more
no.
about that.
Yeah, well, just don't count it.
This is
I think,
mind-blowing,
I
mind-blowing.
think, I think on the food labels, it's important to have protein on the food labels. But
To
the
know how
problem with
much.
that,
Mhm.
but the problem with that is sometimes it's not really the usable protein that we can get from food either. So we have to be really careful about how we interpret it on food labels, especially when it's plant-based protein.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Because that has to do with the amino acids, the essential
Yeah. So we have these essential amino acids, like these 11 amino acids that we must get from the food we eat. Our body can't make them. And then we have kind of conditionally non-essential amino acids. So they're another group where our body can make them, but if we're under stress, if we've got a lot going on, if we're unwell, we might not have the resources to make as many of them as we need. And then we have the non-essential ones, which our body just makes itself. So when we talk about amino acids, we're really mostly talking about the essential ones, and they must come in our food. And, we talk about protein as just this one thing, but that protein's made up of these amino acids in different quantities and ratios with each other. And because we evolved to eat, ancestrally we evolved eating an animal-based diet, our biochemistry is really best suited for the ratios and the kinds of amino acids that we find in animal foods.
It's a better fit.
It's a much better fit. So while we can use plant foods, they are missing some of these amino acids. They may not be in that, well, they're definitely not in the same quantities and ratios as animal-based ones that we need. And then certain plants are completely missing them. So that's, if you're doing a vegan diet, you have to try and balance out all these amino acids.
Yeah, like by combining foods or whatever that may be.
Combining foods, yeah.
Okay.
And the other problem is that amino acids come with, or protein comes with fat, or it comes with carbs in nature. And so the protein from plant proteins comes with a lot of carbs. And so if we're talking about so then we have complete proteins. If we're talking about complete proteins, you've got things like, say, quinoa or soy, so tofu.
So that is a complete protein.
Yep. So they have they have all the essential amino acids. The problem with them is they're not as bioavailable to us.
Okay.
So we need a lot more of them to be able to extract those amino acids. And the other issue with them is there's an amino acid called leucine.
And I have that on my question list for you. So perfect.
So leucine is what's called a limiting amino acid. And we have to have sufficient amount of leucine every time we eat protein for us to use that in muscle protein synthesis. So I know it sounds really complex, but the amino acids basically go in and are stored in our muscle, and then they're released from our muscle when we need them, as our body needs them. And so leucine is the trigger for that to happen. So if we don't get enough leucine every time we eat protein, we're kind of wasting that protein.
And with that protein without the leucine, like if we don't get enough, so is the threshold, is it like 2.5, or is it, what is there a threshold for each bolus amount?
Yeah. So approximately 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine.
Okay.
For every bolus of protein that we eat. So that works out with animal protein, that works out roughly to about 30 grams of protein per meal.
Yeah. So like four, sorry, I'm in the US, you're in New Zealand, but that's about 4 ounces of some sort of meat of some kind would be about 30 grams. Okay. Yeah.
And that's at every meal. That's not just.
Not just once a day.
Not just once a day. And, one of the things that my clients get confused about, and, this might apply to yours as well, is it's not 30 grams of actual food. It's 30 grams of protein.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And so we're needing to eat, like 100 to 120 grams of actual
Yes.
food. And so that's where the 4 ounces comes in.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so if you don't get that leucine threshold met at that meal, the protein that you did consume still helpful for the rest of the body? Because is the leucine just specific to the muscle, to the
Well, so you've got to have the leucine for the protein to be able to be used in the body.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
regards to the
So,
muscle. Okay.
like say 4 eggs, you need 4 eggs, 4 to 5
Yeah.
eggs, depending on their size. If you eat 2 eggs,
You're not getting it.
yeah, you're not getting it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
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 Do you think, is this why, I always think back to, I was into bodybuilding for a while, and
Yeah.
that was the deal back in the day. Like you would
Yeah.
eat these bolus amounts every 3 to 4 hours, like you were setting your alarm,
Yeah.
all the thing. Do you believe, because now there's a little, I wouldn't say controversy, but there's a couple new studies out there on, do you really have to time it like that? Like, could you do just 2 big meals
Yeah.
and get
Yeah.
what you need? Yeah.
Yeah. So, with all the intermittent fasting, time restricted eating, and the studies are showing that you can eat bigger meals. And they used to say, you can only absorb so much protein. And I think people
Right.
like Stuart Phillips and Professor Lehman and,
Oh, yeah.
other experts have shown quite clearly that we can absorb, 45 up to 45, 50 grams and perhaps even more.
Even more. Yeah.
Yeah. And certainly when we get older. So, I know now I try and eat, my meals would be a lot more than just 30 grams per meal. I'm probably aiming more for 40 or 45 grams per meal. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do that definitely twice a day. And then I might have a smaller 30 gram. It just depends on the day, but I might have a smaller 30 gram snack. And I think morning or not morning, but your first meal and your last meal are really important. And then you could be less, maybe a little less specific in that.
For that middle meal.
That middle meal, yeah.
And that morning, or we can say first meal bolus, that's so important because you're catabolic throughout the night. And then, so you're just sensitive. Is that a way to put it?
Well, you're sensitive. Plus, remember, you haven't been eating. Hopefully, you haven't been eating throughout the night.
Yeah.
And so, our body is in this constant dynamic state of building up and breaking down. So you will have been breaking down amino acids in your body to fulfill all those needs that you have.
Right.
And they often increase overnight as well, because that's where a lot of the cleaning and healing processes take place. So we need all those amino acids. So when we wake up or for our first meal of the day, when we break that fast, we really want to be making sure we've got a really good amino acid intake.
And then you talked about the older we get. So our protein requirements, like as we, or, well, I'm assuming we have different requirements then as we do age, or like I'm thinking too, how active you are.
Yep. Definitely as we age, we become what we call anabolic resistant. So it's harder to break down and use that protein, and we need more of it. And of course, we're starting to lose muscle mass. And then a lot of our restoring and recovery processes in our body are needing to ramp up to deal with all the lifestyle stresses. And so, I kind of say 2 grams per kilogram of body weight as we get older. If your listeners are interested, and I'm happy to send it to you, I have a download and you could share.
That'd be awesome.
With anyone who wants it. But on my website, I have a free download about a handy guide to protein. So people are most welcome to download that and have a look. And,
and I'll put all your stuff in the show notes. So I'll put your website there, so then they know they can go there and get it. But that would be great.
I'm happy to I'll send you a copy of that as well.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Thanks, Susan. Yeah. Okay, so probably need to get in even more as we age. You just did the protein in New Zealand terms. So in US terms, is that going to be like, so this is, I'm always thinking zero 0.8 to 1.2 grams per optimal body weight. So
Yeah,
that'd
but
be a little
that's
more.
per kilogram, not per pound.
So you're,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and so even in the US and all the research, even in the US, they talk about grams per kilogram of body weight, not per pound
Right.
of body weight.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
if you convert it, that's what you're looking at, like 0.8 gram per pound of optimal body weight. Or does that sound off to you?
No, that sounds off to me. I think it's per
Does it?
kilogram.
Okay.
Yeah, it's per
Okay. Got it.
kg.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm assuming you're like me, find clients have a lot of difficulty getting that much protein in.
It's not. I don't think it's that much. I
Good.
think clients really um, have higher expectations of what they're eating than what they
Hmm.
actually are eating.
Right. Right.
I don't think it's that much. You know, a 4 ounce bolus of protein isn't
Hmm.
isn't that
Yeah.
isn't that
It's
huge.
like a steak or a chicken
It's a
breast or,
steak, yeah, yeah,
hmm,
or something like that.
yeah.
I think where the problem comes in is we kind of think of breakfast as being like cereals and grains and
Yeah.
fruit, and then we think of lunch as being kind of sandwiches or bagels or
Right.
something with some salad, and then we think of our protein being with our evening meal. But we really
Right.
need to think of our protein being with all those meals. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So, I mean, that makes me think too, as you're talking about that, the idea then of lowering carbs
yeah,
is helpful. I
yeah.
would, yeah, to get
So
more
if
of
you
that
need to
protein in.
manage your energy intake, you can do that with carbs and fat. And then the amount of carbs that you eat really needs to be based on your blood sugar and insulin responses. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have got high fasting insulin,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see that in your triglycerides as well. So if you've got triglycerides, I think it's over 100 for your US numbers, or over 90. So if you've got high triglycerides, that's a real indication that your carbohydrate intake is too high, much higher than
Okay.
what you need. So you need to manage your carbs around those numbers. So you've got your fasting numbers, and then you want to have a look at your postprandial, what
Mm.
happens postprandially. So, if you're eating a meal and then 2 hours later your fasting insulin is really high, up
Mm-hmm.
over 10 or,
Mm-hmm.
12, and I think that's probably too high as well. But
Mm-hmm.
if it's definitely over that, and that's in US numbers, well then you need to be reducing those carbs to get that insulin down.
Just a quick interruption to tell you about 5 Strands at home intolerance test. These are home testing kits, and they are a very affordable option for adults and kids to help you uncover common food and environmental intolerances. This is different than allergy testing. 5 Strands test for food intolerances, not allergies. So, these food and intolerance home testing kits include packages for food ingredients, environmental items, minerals, and nutrition. And you can buy the kits individually, or you can purchase the health and wellness package to receive all of the standard testing kits for adults and children. The testing results, what they do is they provide you with an elimination guideline to remove foods that may be causing unwanted symptoms, things like headaches, digestive issues, bloating, and so, we all have foods that can be causing inflammation like this in the body. And 5 Strands has helped many people figure out exactly what foods to eliminate for an elimination diet so that you're not just guessing what foods are making you feel terrible or not so good. And remember, an elimination diet is meant to be temporary and not forever. So you can use 5 Strands to know how to start your elimination diet. And then once you start feeling better, you can start to add back in the offending foods slowly into your diet. So just a reminder, elimination diet is not meant to be forever. So if you think this is something that might be helpful for you where you're at on your health and wellness journey, you can go to fivestrands.com, and that's the number 5. So the number 5strands.com, and enter my name as your discount code. So, when you get to the checkout, there'll be a box for a discount code, and you just enter my name, Heather Heinen. And Heinen is spelled Heynen. It's all one word, no spaces. So use my name as your discount code at checkout, and you'll get a really nice discount.
Yeah. Do you find that there's maybe a ballpark number of carbs that is, I don't know, okay, or healthy maybe, or is it do you find it's really individual?
It's really individual because we all have a personal fat threshold and we all have a sort of personal carbohydrate tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, I think less than 30 grams per meal is adequate. So if you're healthy, normal weight, young person growing, exercising for health, not for performance, because then we switch into a whole different sort of perspective. But if you're exercising, so then I think 30 grams per meal is okay, and that'll give you about 90 grams of carbs a day, which is a fair amount. Which is a fair amount. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I think what I find is typically if I'm looking at what people are eating, a lot of times they'll be more around the 200 to 300 carbs.
Exactly.
And okay. So you see that same thing. Yeah. And I think too, it's just, it's always interesting when you get people to log their food for a little bit. It's usually pretty interesting, and I think a surprise to most people in what they find that their carbs are, higher, or that they don't even know the number. Like, well, how many carbs am I supposed to be, And so it's like, well, what does getting 200 to 300 carbs a day even mean, or why is that a problem? So
what does it look like in food? And you've got a few slices of bread and then some fruit, and then people are snacking on fruit all day, and then they're told to drink their orange juice with, and you've got to drink your orange juice so that you absorb your iron and get your vitamin C, and and it's just going boom, 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 boom. And that's having this terrible impact on our insulin and high, when our blood sugars become dysregulated, that's really a symptom of insulin dysregulation.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, I don't know about there, but I know here you can get your labs done and they'll test your glucose, maybe your A1C, if you ask for that, but they are not testing fasting insulin.
No, you have to go and pay for it. Yeah. And over here they say it's so expensive we can't afford to test it, and it's $40.
Yeah.
And you think we won't test it, we'll wait until you've got type 2 diabetes, and then we'll pay for thousands of dollars worth of drugs every year.
Yeah, it's a crazy situation. Could we go back a little bit? Could I pick your brain about when you said, so if you're exercising, like, just to get your exercise in, but if you're an athlete, because I know you are super active, I'm super active. And a lot of listeners are fairly active. I mean, it's interesting. I have a population where I have a lot of listeners who don't do a lot of movement at all. And then I have a group of listeners who are highly athletic. So for those highly athletic ones, so what is different then? Do you think more carbs, is that helpful, or?
It depends. I think if you're out there performing, and it depends what kind of performance that you're doing, then you may want to increase your carbs. And I think you need to base that on how well you're sleeping, making sure that you're not gaining that visceral fat, making sure that insulin is in that stable level. So, I know it doesn't sound that helpful, but because everything needs to be really individualized. Different sports require, so if you're doing endurance sports, well, then you can run more on, you can be fueled by fat. And we know that, we know
I've trained
ultra
people
distance,
that way.
absolutely. And ultra
Yeah.
distance runners, I mean, they can run, a couple of 100K with no carbs at all,
Yes.
because their metabolic machinery is really tuned to using fat. We also have to remember that we make carbs in our body. So glucose is absolutely essential. Our brain needs glucose, our cells need glucose, but we make what we need in our body.
Yeah.
So we don't have to be eating it.
Right. And then would you say carbs maybe could help fuel performance more? Are you thinking more like sprinting or that type of more that mid-range? Yeah, that's how I feel too.
And some of the people I work with, like the young slalom athletes and people like that, and also age as well. I mean, for some of those young guys that, I'm involved with, they can hardly get enough calories in a day.
Yeah.
So we're talking like really different populations, and it's important really important not to compare. So, if you've got people out there competing and powerlifting or, those kinds of sports, or if you've got people out there doing endurance sports, the needs are kind of quite different.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kind of switching gears a little bit, but do you have any insight or information on, because last time we talked, we were talking a little bit about nourishing the body and mental health stuff, with lack of protein, does protein affect, mental health stuff?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we need those amino acids to build our neurotransmitters, to build all our neurons. And so when we're not building those properly, when we're not adequately fed, what you and I were talking about was the struggle between people desperately wanting to make change, and not necessarily just for their health, but they're wanting to achieve at work. They have all these goals and ambitions. Yep. And then they're like, I really want to do this. I feel this deep driving passion.
Yes.
And then why can't I get off my backside and do it?
Right.
Why am I procrastinating? Why am I, just, struggling to do the things I want to do?
Yeah.
And I think that's because we think of that effort coming from willpower and being motivated, and we don't realize that all those neurotransmitters and all those neurons in our brain are basically, they've got to be switched on to be motivated.
Exactly. Yeah. So protein definitely plays a big part in that.
Protein is absolutely essential in that role. And then, of course, all the other micronutrients that come from, all your B vitamins, your essential fatty acids, or your trace elements, all those minerals and trace elements. So
important too.
Yeah, they're really important. And then the most nutrient abundant foods that we have to provide those things come from, I call it the rainbow of animal foods. So it's not just about just eating beef, just eating, it's about eating a widely sourced range of animal foods to get all those nutrients.
Yeah.
Because so many of them, we got so many like carnosine, carnitine, taurine, choline, we don't even find them in plant foods.
Yeah, I know. So really kind of needing that animal protein in order to get a lot of those micronutrients that otherwise we're not going to be getting. And I suppose if you are eating vegetarian or vegan, how you talked about in the beginning, it's not only then about food combining to get all the essential amino acids, but it's also things about thinking about how am I going to get those micronutrients that aren't. So maybe then supplementation does have to come into play.
Well, you do need supplementation. So B vitamins, if you're a vegan.
I know, I was thinking that.
There are no B vitamins in plant foods, no matter what you hear. Some of the influencers try and tell you. It's not true.
Yes. Oh, I've heard them. Yes.
So you've got to supplement. And then other things like retinol, form of vitamin A that our body uses. So they say, you can get all your beta carotene out of your plant foods, but our conversion is so low. You've kind of got to eat a kilogram of carrots every day.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
and
food.
there's so many examples of things like that. So, we just have to be really careful. And if you are eating vegetarian, vegan diets, it's important to supplement. And it's also important to remember they aren't, and this is something I talk about a lot, a vegan diet isn't a processed food diet without animal products in it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
A proper vegan diet is hard work,
Very.
Yeah. And I have clients who've been, or who some still are, and some had been vegans for, 20 years or so. And the amount of work and effort they put into their diets is phenomenal.
Yeah. I just had a conversation with he's a rock climber trainer, Eric Hurst, and he said the same thing, that he knows some who are vegan, but that they have to spend so much time every day planning and being strategic and cooking and all those things.
Yeah,
it's not for me. I don't have that time.
No, well, I mean, I really understand the emotional kind of reasons why people
like the ethical
choose it,
you bet,
and the ethic, so I can totally understand. I mean, if I could get all my nutrition without having to kill animals, that would be lovely.
I agree.
But unfortunately, it's not how it works. And I think we just have to really hold to real strong care values around how we treat the animals and how they're fed and things like that. But
trying to make the best choices we can when we are consuming meat and all those things. I agree.
Exactly.
I was just thinking about another part of protein that maybe you could speak to a little bit, but that's the protein leverage hypothesis. Do you think that we maybe overeat because we're not getting enough protein?
I think there's real strong evidence for that. And my dogs. So during COVID lockdown, it was really hard to get the high quality dog food that I needed for them.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get the animal protein that I needed for them. And I couldn't believe how how they just pestered me all day for food.
They were
because
hungry.
I had to change their so they ended up mostly on dog biscuits because you couldn't get anything else, and they were just constantly nagging me for food. Whereas on their normal diet, sometimes when they've had enough, they'll just walk away and leave it.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so even though I tried not to overfeed them, I also and I was still exercising them. I lived in a place where I was able to sort of get out and still give them their decent amount of exercise that they needed. Yeah, I know, because they were big boys. So even though they were still doing that, I noticed they were gaining weight and, and then I'm like, well, if I cut back their food, then they're just going to just be hounding me even further.
They'll never leave you alone.
Oh, I know. I was buying eggs and sardines.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. It was crazy. So that protein leverage hypothesis holds true for all animals, I understand from the research. And I think it really does for us. And it might even be more than just, the need for, it might be that need for nutrients as opposed to that energy that we've been talking about. So your body is just craving, it just needs some B12 and some copper and some zinc and some iron and some,
Yes. Yeah. So trying to eat until those needs are fulfilled. And in the meantime, we end up overeating because we're filling more of our food with carbohydrates, or even processed food in general.
Yeah.
Do you have thoughts on like processed meat at all?
Are you talking about like hams
Just
and salamis and
yeah, and
things
like
like that?
bacon and yeah, because
Um,
I'm always like, oh, we're trying to reduce processed food, but then I don't know, it's protein.
yeah, I think of them as being a treat.
Yeah,
I don't think of them as being a staple. I mean, I certainly enjoy having some bacon sometimes. I
definitely.
find,
Yeah.
some biltong or some salami or something can be good
Hmm.
for a snack, but I
Yeah.
don't personally eat them every day.
Yeah.
I prefer to eat sort of fresh meat. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I eat
Hmm.
and from a huge, wide range of
Yeah.
sources.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. You have a great diet going there. That's awesome.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And I always think it too, a lot of those processed meat, I mean, it is protein, which is great. But a lot of times they have added ingredients or like added sugar or things like that. So I just always am trying to think of
And
telling people to read
and
labels too.
yeah, and then you got to look at the vegetable oils. I mean, that's
Yes, right.
so we talk
Yes,
about the carbs.
right.
I'm not totally convinced that everything is all just carbs
Yeah.
and sugar. I think those
Hmm.
vegetable oils play a huge
Yeah.
role in the problem. And when we
Yeah.
look at processed foods, we've got these vegetable oils plus the sugars plus all these ingredients
Yes.
that you can't even pronounce.
Yes.
And we're putting them into our body that doesn't recognize them as food. It doesn't know what to do with them
Right.
because they're
Yeah.
so
Not good.
new. Yeah. So our DNA, we haven't evolved for those to be in our diet. So
I know. I always wonder, that gap that we have going. It's sort of like, will we as humans eventually catch up to that where
yeah.
it's like
I
humans
wonder
can be
about that
eating
too.
all the donuts they want? You know what I mean? And it's just,
I
we're
know.
cool. Everything's cool. We're living till 100, 120, eating donuts.
I wonder about that too. It's really funny. I'm like, oh, we're going to evolve to be, like
Yeah.
the people who eat that stuff and do live till they're old, are
Yes.
they going to be we'll
Yeah.
reproduce from them and we're going to have this new breed of humans? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always go back to, well, it's not happening now and it's not going to happen in my lifetime, but it does make
Mm,
me wonder down the
yeah.
road what's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So,
What
yeah.
evolution will do. But,
Right. Yeah.
those vegetable oils are pretty toxic and we have so
Yeah.
many of them. And, they get into our fat cells and then cause a whole lot of, inflammatory cytokines and things like that. And when we get over fat and we can no longer keep that fat locked up in our fat cells
Yeah.
and it starts leaking into our bloodstream, then we have
We
this
have all
low
that
grade
stuff in there.
oil inflammation. And,
Yeah. Hey, could you name some of the oils when we talk about, so olive oil would be fine,
yeah,
avocado oil fine. We're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
things like canola oil and yeah, stuff like
Sunflower,
yes,
yeah,
yes, okay. Things like that.
soybean oil. I have a personal real dislike of soy.
Yeah.
So that's a personal prejudice. So, I'll put out there that, other people have different opinions
Yeah.
about
Sure.
soy, but
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of soy because so many of these things evolved in different areas around the world and different
Hmm.
populations. And so,
Yeah.
certain ethnic groups can consume them quite happily and then others can't. And, you look at the lactose gene, so
Yeah.
so many of us can tolerate lactose because, we've been exposed to it for long enough. And then you have a whole lot
Hmm.
of populations who
It can.
don't have the gene.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be really careful with soy and we look at all these hormonal problems. We look at
Hmm.
how young kids are starting to go through puberty, these young
Oh, yeah.
girls now.
Yeah. 8 or 9.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean,
Hmm.
I remember way back when I was, first studying nutrition. So, we're looking 30 years ago or something. And there
Hmm.
was research coming out about the effects of, like soy milk, infant formula,
Mm-hmm.
on the development of young baby boys and the changes in their hormones and,
Yeah.
and I think we're starting to see those impacts coming through now.
Yeah. Interesting. And kind of scary too.
Yeah, really scary.
Yeah. This is switching a little bit, but do you know anything about leptin resistance? Like that's a word that's getting thrown around.
It's a really interesting one. It has a lot to do with our insulin levels.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding of the early research about leptin was that was going to be the saving grace. Like that's why everybody got overweight was because of leptin resistance. And then the research was like, no, not many people have real leptin resistance.
Yeah, like if you get the test done or whatever, right?
Yeah, you're not leptin resistant. But I think what is fair to say is that when your insulin is high, and so your insulin is lowering your blood sugar and it's locking the glucose up in your fat cells, or wherever, your brain has this demand for energy, but you're not able to access it because insulin is high. You can't burn your body fat for fuel, so you can't release free fatty acids and you can't make ketones for fuel when your insulin is really high. I think the one thing I would really like listeners to think about is how taking care of your body is the biggest mark of self-respect you can possibly have.
Yeah.
And I think, being connected with your health and with your body. And I think, you and I, we talked to you on my podcast and we talked about things about, societal pressures to be this weight or that weight or this shape or that shape. With both our backgrounds, we both know what that feels like. And, even now it's a huge struggle for me psychologically not to keep buying back into that because of, you've just got to deal with all that past trauma that just sits there and keeps repeating itself. So you have to sit there and have some serious conversations with yourself about some of this stuff. But it's not about taking care of your body. Self-care is not about being a certain weight or being a certain shape. It's about just, respecting this chemical factory in your body that is just doing these amazing, amazing things trillions and trillions of times every second in every single cell in your body. And we just cruise around and don't even know.
Not thinking about it.
We don't even think about it. And
it's amazing.
For those things to happen, we've got to have amino acids, we've got to have essential fatty acids, we've got to have vitamins, minerals, and trace elements. And our contribution to that is just to eat the foods that have got those things in them. And, I say to people, if you want to eat cake and if you want to eat takeout and if you want to eat all those things, you knock yourself out. That's your choice. That's not for me to tell you how to live your life. But before you eat those things, eat the things with the nutrients in them first. Is it all right if I mention that you and I are going to do a Q&A podcast together?
I would love it.
Yeah, and so that would be a great opportunity for your listeners to tune in and come and ask questions as well.
And we'll get it booked and we'll make it happen.
And then we'll let people know. Awesome. Thank you.
Sounds great. Great to see you. Thank you, Susan. Did you know you can find a lot more help from me on my website? Go to heatherheynen.com. Heynen is spelled Heynen, and there you will find links to my online courses, how I work with clients one-on-one, as well as online with my coaching and counseling services that I offer. The information in this podcast is intended to provide a broad understanding and knowledge of healthcare topics. This information is for educational purposes only and should not be considered complete and should not be used in place of advice from your physician or healthcare provider.
We recommend you consult your physician or healthcare professional before beginning or altering your personal exercise, diet, or supplementation program.